These are the absolute essential skills that everyone should have in their body weight arsenal. And everything I'm going to show you today comes from the free run element of Powerbatics that all of our students at Pacific Rim Athletics do, all the way up to level 10. And some of these might seem like no-brainers, but we're going to go into great depth in this video. The first one is obvious, running and jumping, but not how you might think. Obviously, every human being needs to know how to run and they need to know how to jump. I mean, even things from everyday life, just running and jumping up, jumping down off of the edge of a truck bed, or going outside and playing around, all the way up to advanced level skill. You need to be able to use your legs and run and jump. And you have forward, backward, side, butt kickers, skipping and sprinting. And for jumping, you'll have one-footed jumps, you'll have two-footed jumps, you'll have rebounds off of the ground, all the way up to the flips, and flips from all kinds of different angles. And flips are simply a jump plus a core activation that's done in mid-air. And oftentimes we get into some situations where there's some biomechanical things happening over years of time where running and jumping just isn't quite right. What a lot of people do is they mistake videos for instruction. There is an oversaturation and there's an undersaturation in quality coaching and community. And that's leading people in the droves to get hurt, stuck, frustrated, and injured. Now, before we go running and jumping ahead, there's two paths that you're going to be on. The first is going to be people that are already relatively fit, and you guys know I hate that word fitness. Rather, it's training both physically and mentally. Now, the first path is going to be for folks that may already be training. They can run and jump pretty effortlessly. Jumping is going to go all the way up, all the way to skills like flips. But what's going to happen is people are going to rush through steps. They're going to skip steps in progression and end up getting frustrated along the way. On the other path are people who they may be working out already or they may not. And either way, they might have a backpack full of injuries. They might be overweight. They might have things that need to be fixed and rectified first. And so what often happens is that people get into training a little bit, they make a little bit of progress, and then they end up getting hurt on simple things just like running and jumping. And then the excuses start to pile up where they're saying, oh, I'm too old, I shouldn't be doing this anymore. And those are complete lies. And that'll actually happen on both paths. So someone who might be in decent shape and training a little bit, and they start skipping steps and then they end up stuck. And then the person that needs to start fixing some weak links and resolving some past problems, then they're ending up hurt, stuck, frustrated on things just as simple and straightforward as running and jumping. Now, on the flip side of that, no pun intended, don't mistake your baseline for a plateau, or worse, for a roadblock. What I mean by that is this. Let's say that you're on one of those two paths, okay? And I'll talk about both. First, we'll talk about the people that are training already, trying this, trying that. They might have what we call splintered skills, where they have the ability to do maybe some running, maybe a few pull-ups, maybe a little bit of a handstand, but then all these other skills that I talk about in these videos are not there. And so those are expository of all of the weak links. And so they're training and they're doing some things along the way on their own, and they're trying to maybe develop a skill, or they get into some training with someone else and they're pushing hard and they're going for it, and maybe things are easy. Maybe they're acquiring things really quickly. Then all of a sudden they hit this point where they feel like they're stuck, where in reality, all they've come across is their baseline, and now they've got to work like the rest of the population does. And then the folks on the opposite path, their baseline, their threshold might be considerably lower. And so just getting started feels like, oh, I hit a brick wall. I can't do this. This isn't for me. When that is simply not the case. They just have to keep going and go through the roadblock and overcome that obstacle. And that's actually the secret element of Powerbatics training. We have 5. We have handstand, ninja strength, free run, power moves, and circ. Plus we start everybody on foundation. And then we have a secret element, obstacle. And obviously just being on earth is going to require you to be able to run and jump effectively all the way up to doing obstacle races like you'll see people like Michelle doing. or people like Venny with his massive monumental injury history, and all sorts of our students from Pacific Rim Athletics competing in professional level events. And this obviously just starts from a baby crawling, learning how to walk, and then run, and then jump. And the problem is that people just let that atrophy over time. They give up and give in and don't have the quality of life that they should have. Now the second one everyone should have is vaulting. Vaulting is another absolutely essential skill that everyone should have as part of their body weight arsenal. And not only vaulting physically, but also the ability to vault mentally to overcome your obstacles in all different aspects of life. I can't tell you how many times I've vaulted in just everyday life. Getting over a fence, getting over the bed of a truck, or even launching myself over a railing off a second-story building. Now, you don't need to go to that extreme, but you should be able to vault. Then all vaulting is propelling yourself over an obstacle. That is it. It's basically a jump with an added element. And in this case, in free run element of Powerbatics, it's with the use of your hands. When we vault, the easiest way to vault is by adding your feet to the move. Every time we add a foot, it's called a safety vault. For example, one hand, 1 foot, see the hole, step through the hole to the other side. Or one hand, no feet, or feet in front of you, or compressing your core and pulling your feet right through the middle. And there's even vaults where you roll over the top, like so. Now, whether it's running, jumping, vaulting, or the other skill I'm going to show you, all of these can be cut and pasted into higher level skills. And they build vastly superior strength, flexibility, mobility, and one that people are just not talking about, but coordination. And even beyond coordination, dexterity. As you see, a basic roll vault is the same mechanics as a front flip. But again, what's gonna happen is people are gonna put their own excuses in the way. They're gonna say, this joint hurts, that joint hurts. They're gonna focus on the negatives. They're gonna talk about their age. They're gonna talk about all these factors that they think are the real problems. The real problem is that people's limiting beliefs are the only things that are holding them back. Everyone knows the story of Icarus. The moral supposedly that flying too high will melt your wings and you'll fall to your doom. The other part of the story that some have noted is that the warning is also to not fly too low, that the storms of the sea would destroy him. And something that I've never heard anybody say is that he was never found. You really don't know what his true potential was, and you'll never know what your true potential is unless you go for it 100%. And one of my main goals with Pacific Rim Athletics is to build superhero level characters in our own universe. And I hear all the time about people who are achieving things they never thought possible, really, quite literally. And it's because they go for it 100%. People like Dave, who have progressed all the way up to level 10 and who are destroying things like vaulting. Whoa. People like Cairo, who are likewise killing it in free run. People from kids to teens, all the way up to adults, all the way up to 50, 60 plus years old. And these aren't overly talented people with already miraculous superhero level powers. These are people that simply decided not to let any limiting beliefs hold them back. And the last one is rolling. Emphasize this one enough. You should be able to roll at any angle imaginable. This is not for advanced martial artists or gymnasts. In fact, we're taking all of those skills and boiling it down so that anybody and everybody can be able to acquire it without having to retire at the age of 14 with a truckload of injuries like many of the individuals that we've had consults with. So what do I mean by all angles? You should be able to roll omnidirectionally. In fact, whenever I was a little kid, I was on a friend's bicycle and the brakes were switched and I hit one and flew over the handlebars, knocked out a tooth. 10 years later, I had the same accident, but the difference was I had been doing all kinds of bodyweight strength and skills training for a decade. The front wheel came flying off my mountain bike. I flew over the handlebars, time slowed down, I shoulder rolled, stood up, dusted the gravel off, and thought, huh, that was cool, and went inside and fixed the bike. And it does not have anything to do with any sort of magical powers, but simply by body weight strength and skills training, the same kind of training that I'm sharing in all of these videos. So of course there's the shoulder roll, there's going backwards, there's straight back, there's twisting, and there's all the way around. And again, all of these can Control C, Control V, all the way up to front flips, back flips, twisting flips, and even double flips, and every other kind of skill that you can imagine. A couple examples of this from our Pacific Rim Athletics universe is people like Ben, who came in and progressed all the way up to training for double twisting, double back flips, and every other flip you can imagine. Alex came in with just a round off back handspring after several years of training and progressed all the way up to level 10, learning flips from all directions on demand in a year and a half. Clayton, in about 2 years, same thing, 0 experience, all the way up to level 10. And Venny, our superstar, massive amounts of injuries prior to training with us, didn't even start anything athletic until his mid-40s. I didn't even meet him until he was 46 years old. And within this span of time, he's learned just about every flip you can think of. And it started with just basic line drills like the ones that I'm showing you right now with these rolls. But again, back to our 2 paths. There's gonna be 2 paths that everyone is on. There's gonna be some that are already training that are without a doubt gonna end up getting stuck, frustrated, injured. Something is gonna arise because steps are gonna be being missed. There's gonna be gaps in that path that they're not addressing unless they have good coaching, good community, and they're really getting into the details of the strength and skills development. And it's not just some sort of halfway approach. You get what I'm saying? The other path is where people might be extremely enthusiastic, or they might have a hard time with motivation, and they've got things that they need to address as they get up and running, and to continue going down that path so that again, they're not getting hurt, stuck, frustrated, injured, etc. These kind of skills are not just party tricks. They're a byproduct of real physical and mental training, and that fortify you for all of life and just everyday activities. But then they can also be scaled all the way up through the elements of Powerbatics, for example, all the way up to level 10 and advanced level skill. But we're starting with running, vaulting, and rolling. Absolutely essential skills that everybody should have in their bodyweight arsenal. I'll see you in the next video and in training soon.